Good evening, everyone. 7:34. And we are going into our village board meeting, and we welcome everybody. This is on, right?
Yes,
See
you
if
can't
I
hear it
can't
anymore.
hear anything, I can't tell. Okay. Fine. So we're gonna say the pledge and then we are gonna get started. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Trustee Fritchie. Trustee White.
Present.
Trustee Casada.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lopez.
Present.
And Mayor Levin.
Present.
Okay, mayors and trustees announcements.
Are there any announcements? Sue, welcome back, by the way.
Thank you.
How was the vacation?
It was great.
You look good, you look happy, you look rested, ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was great.
Any announcements? There is the Hispanic Festival. I don't know the official name. Is that what they're calling it?
Hispanic
The
Heritage.
Heritage Festival? Sunday, at the post office parking lots, 12 to 7, correct? Or 12 to later?
I think it goes till 8.
12 to 8, okay. So please join us. It's Hispanic Heritage Month this month, so please join us for the festivities. And if there are no other board trustees, okay, let's get started.
Okay, administrative report. Village Manager Detour.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good evening, everybody. So here we go again with the updates for this evening. Our 16 Croton Avenue boardroom. We're still renovating. We're working to get it done as quickly as possible. The good news is that we have our audio visual system, with many thanks to Jamie Hoffman and staff, is now ready for hybrid meetings at the courthouse. So starting next week, we will have both village work sessions and legislative sessions at the courthouse until such time that the boardroom is done, which we are working, targeting the date November 1st, ideally sooner. So we will hopefully not be doing work sessions in any other place for very long. So but we will be able to get back into the courthouse for our legislative session. So that's good news.
So what's the plan for the meetings? Legislative back in the court and regular meetings?
And work sessions would be at 16 Croton, the way we had done it historically.
Beginning next week.
Beginning next week will be 100% in the courthouse until the 16 Croton. So we'll do our work. Next week's work session will be at the courthouse, which is probably a more conducive area and more convenient for people than this room is. Then we'll do our legislative session there the following week. I don't think that the boardroom will be ready by the next work session,
Okay.
but probably
That's what I'm
we're
getting to.
shooting
Okay.
for November 1st, and then we'll go back to.
That's what I'm
the
trying
old
to get
days.
to. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Looking forward to it.
Okay, James Street paving, you may, street sweeping rather, working on the, north side of the street now, and, that job is nearing completion. And then, subsequent to, the streetscaping on the sidewalks, we'll be paving, and that should be done before the end of the year. Our multimodal transportation hub. The great news is as I mentioned last report, we had 16 prospective architectural design and engineering construction management services firms visit the site, and we had many questions. So we have extended the deadline for the RFP to the due date to September 29th. And with regard to the Indian Buck Water Treatment Plant, we've also got a lot of questions regarding the bid for the construction of the new plant, and we've extended the bid opening date from yesterday, Tuesday the 19th, to October 10th. So while we really don't want to wait any longer after all this time, we really felt that the number of questions and the time that was requested from the very qualified bidders. It's a nice assortment of bidders, that it was in our best interest to extend the date. And as a follow-up, as you know, we have applied for 2 significant grants to help fund the construction of the new plant. If you remember, we applied for a $30 million DEC intermunicipal grant and a $10 million Mid-Hudson Millennium Fund grant, which is for essential infrastructure, and that's administered by Empire State Development Corporation. And on Friday, we received word from our friends at Empire State that we are required to make a short presentation to the Regional Economic Development Council. They're also the group that approved our funding for the DRI. And the proposal will focus on our alignment with the Regional Economic Development Council goals and objectives for this particular grant, which is really supporting infrastructure projects that are essential for the way people live, work, and play, particularly with regard to development of housing, transit-oriented housing, affordable housing, as well as making sure that the community is viable and sustainable long-term. So we definitely check all those boxes. So we are working on a 5-minute slide or video presentation. In this instance, we're choosing a slide presentation given the timing, and we will have a copy of that ready to share with the board on probably by the end of the day tomorrow. The presentation's due on Monday, and the presentation is scheduled for Wednesday, the 27th at 10:45. A maximum of 3 presenters are allowed. It's a virtual presentation. So Andy Teese, our water superintendent, Valerie Manastra, our planning consultant, and I will be at that presentation. So hopefully that's a good sign. Excited. And speaking of signs, you may want to watch for signs around the village, and in an effort to make our neighborhoods and streets safer, more walkable, more bikeable, our public works staff has been busy installing new stop signs, as well as no parking here to corner signs and no parking anytime signs, where existing parking code had already applied. No new parking, no parking, only existing no parking, but signage to really help keep our residents better informed of the appropriate and safe parking options they have, and to facilitate enforcement. Last week, Town Supervisor Feldman and I attended the
Hold on, before we go on from there. So I remember writing in the mayor's message from the note that you gave me that like about a quarter of them are done, about 25% approximately.
Approximately 25%.
Okay, so do we have a listing or some map of like where the rest of them are going? How is that getting done? I guess I don't, is it neighborhood by neighborhood? Is it like, what's the plan?
Can I ask our superintendent? of
There's
Public
like an
Works
empty seat right there with your name on it.
to address that question?
Or there.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Is it on?
It is. I know. It's weird, right? Is if the green light is on, you're on.
Light is
You
on,
just
yes.
can't hear it.
Thank you. So, yeah, it was kind of a empirical 25%. We're basically working our way through the neighborhoods. We started on the east up around Sunset and Justin-Merritt around there, and we're working our way down through the village towards the water. We started this project with the idea that we were gonna, focus on safety, and maybe some of the older subdivisions that were done in the 30s and 40s that really didn't have stop signs adopted as part of the subdivision process, to add them based on what today's traffic dictates. So we've added a few of those, but what we found was that there was a lot of signage that wasn't in place as it should be to adhere to our parking code. So we went out starting with stop signs and no parking here to corner, really for the safety and the parking aspects of line of sight and such, and it turned to be a little bit more with installing some no parking signs in the areas that did not have them posted where there was no parking permitted, and it's just kind of growing from there. So we're still working within our operating budget and doing this, and I think you'll see during the budget presentations this year that we're probably going to be asking for that line to be funded again, so we can keep on with this program. I think it's an important program. It's an effective, and it's also flushing out some of the areas that you know, may or may not consider reevaluating during the manager's parking study that she's undertaken a couple of months ago, including overnight parking where that's permitted, alternate side, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, but right now, so you're starting from like, really the Brookside School, you're going across right where 9A crosses, which is Indian Village. And you're basically heading downwards, literally, down to the waterfront, sort of neighborhood by neighborhood. I mean, I've seen some of the signs. Where there is no parking at night, which is, you know, a lot of the village, no signs are going up that say no park, except you will be putting up maybe stop signs or the here to corner sign.
Correct.
Because a lot of people sort of shove their car in way too close and trucks, whatever, can't really make that turn. So you're putting those are the signs you're putting up.
Correct.
Okay, and you're about 25% or so? I mean, it's not an
Yeah,
exact
I mean-
number. I know you're an engineer, so you want to be exact, but approximately?
Approximately, yes.
All right, so the whole village is getting built.
That's what we're looking to do. Yeah.
Oh, and it's in 23, the whole village.
Yeah, we're gonna work through the whole bill before the end of the year for sure.
Right, and so the second part is to then go back and say, does this area need one side, both sides, et cetera, but that's a whole different parking conversation.
Correct.
Okay. All righty.
Thank
you.
Thanks.
Don't go anywhere
Oh.
yet, Paul. Thank you. And Mayor, thank you. You actually took some of my questions. So Karen, I was gonna ask you this last time when you presented, give us an update in regards to this. So I'm gonna go back a little bit. And I'm not gonna have an argument or discussion. I just want to make a statement and then I want to add some answers after that. A couple months back, I asked the same question. What do we need to do when we need to place a stop sign in a neighborhood that needs? The conversation that you and I had was, there's a study that need to be done. We need to call a village engineer, our police department, they need to be involved. The whole process takes months. And pretty much you said at that time that we weren't really looking into do this. Not that I'm not happy of what is going on, but what changed from 2 months ago to 2 weeks ago when you give us this update?
So it wasn't, you know, if I remember correctly, and I do remember the conversation, it's something that is considered differently than the question specifically was, how does one go about requesting a stop sign? So while people have called us, many people have called us about stop signs to slow traffic. We've been very careful about the fact that stop signs are not designed to slow traffic. They really have a different purpose. And I've worked very closely with Paul because I'm not an expert on this, but being educated along the way to make sure as we add the stop signs, that we are doing it in a way that makes sense for the public. So it's,
Excuse me.
you know, we took that under advisement. So what we were, at that time, we had already started looking, because we had, if you remember, we had also said at that time, we were working with Creighton Manning to look at some of the more problematic, high traffic intersections. And in doing that, Paul and I spent a considerable amount of time in different parts of the village where we've gotten the most requests for it. And Paul very thoughtfully deemed that, you know, certainly on some of the tertiary streets in neighborhoods that are, you know, have a lot of families, children, kids are walking places, school buses, that it probably was warranted. It may not have been needed years ago or even, you know, 10 years ago, but now it warrants it a little bit more. And then we also considered some stop signs where traditionally stop signs aren't done. So we basically followed the process that I explained. And, you know, I think we were able to do it faster than I anticipated. I don't like to overpromise and underdeliver. When Paul decided that we could do it sooner, but it's really not my decision. So working closely with Paul, following that conversation, as well as other conversations that we had with residents, Paul felt confident, and as did, you know, where appropriate, working with the police department, with Kevin and his staff, that these were going to be good interventions. So
That's not the conversation that you and I had, but you know what? I'm not gonna argue about that process itself because I'm happy that this is happening. It's just the process, how I went about it. I'm not too happy about that portion. So, but thank you, Karen. So, Paul, when you're doing this signs and stop signs, because one of the biggest problems that we had in past years, and even I know Stuart have looked into that, I believe Maddie had looked into that a couple years back. It was that there were some signs that are not part of our code itself. Or there was misinformation with the signage, the hours, some of that stuff, it becomes not enforceable. Are you looking into that and addressing those issues? Make sure that the signs that are being placed on the streets are actually coordinating with the stuff that we have in our books right now?
Yeah, so, specific to no parking signs and no parking here to corner signs. The no parking here to corner, we're just utilizing the manual of uniform traffic control to kind of dictate where they go. There's some discretion you have based on, you know, where someone's driveway may be or a utility where you can, you know, have some leeway and where you can locate those signs, but we're pretty much adhere to that manual. The no parking signs that we've been installing, we do reference the code per street. So we'll go to the street, we'll see what we have, and if there's no parking there at all, we'll sign it as such. And we actually found, and it wasn't just in the village, there was some, you know, there were some areas where the no parking signs were missing, whether they were spaced too widely
Yeah.
apart. Or
I didn't mean to, I actually drove around the village because we got a couple of complaints, so I
Yeah.
told Karen, I drove around different parts, so.
Yeah.
I just happened to point to below Brookside and going across,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So we are referencing the code for every street. As far as overnight parking and permit parking and alternate side parking, we haven't gotten there, but we're referencing the code relative to that. Because that was gonna be part of a bigger parking study where we're gonna try to determine if we want to expand roads. I mean, the only thing I've really done so far with the overnight parking program is do a best estimate on parking spaces village-wide on every single street where there is overnight parking presently permitted. And I think the manager heard her discussing that with you last month to kind of, you know, that's the jumping off part, you know, how many spaces you can park and how many spaces the clerk sells. So, because as you know, parking permits, overnight parking waivers rather, are not given for a specific street, they're given for the village. So you can park on any overnight parking street that you want if you have that waiver. As far as stop signs referenced in the code is something that I think legislation from a few years ago allows the managers code adjustment where they can
Correct.
just do that. So, you know, the manager's been in the loop with every move we make, but she doesn't have anything in writing yet that you referenced earlier, because what we're gonna do, we're gonna put everything in based on the Uniform Traffic Control Manual or our discretion, which that manual does permit.
Right.
And then send you the itemized list and ask that it be put on a resolution for all those stop signs to get adopted
Right.
into the resolution.
And I think it's important
that's
to
interesting.
clarify the process. So while it is under my authority to approve those, there would never be a situation where I would, without the advice of experts in the field, say we need a stop sign there.
Yeah.
When people do have concerns about traffic, we look at it very holistically. So while we have, and I think in some cases, maybe did things that we wouldn't have considered, or, you know, at different points, but I think that it's really important to understand holistically, like just putting a stop sign may or may not address the issue you're looking to address, particularly if it's heavy traffic, just looking to slow traffic. And it's a very deliberate conversation. So we also look, in addition to stop signs, we look at electronic signage that will indicate speed so that people will slow down. That's been very effective
So,
in certain
and
areas.
Let me interject this if I may, it might help frame the conversation. And by way of examples, maybe the best way to answer what you're asking about the stop signs. In the area of Arthur Jones Park, where that neighborhood comes up and connects into Sherwood. We had received a call about speed on Sherwood and there's a lot of bus traffic. It's a big cut through. Now, we all know it's a cut through. If you live here, that's where a lot of the cut through comes from Pine to get to Croton, et cetera. It's also where they come down from that neighborhood, you know, up Marshall or through Park to get to Sherwood. That's the routes that people take. And quite frankly, if you don't really think about it, you probably think that there's one there. But any of those roads that were tributary to Sherwood, like Park and Marshall, none of them had stop signs as it entered in onto Sherwood. Which, you know, I know when you drive there, you stop because you're supposed to stop for B&T, right? It tells you to stop at those intersections before you proceed. But there was no stop sign. And we did two things. The neighbors' complaint about speed was researched by the police department with their speed trailer. And there was no real apparent speeding issues there. So it's one of those things that maybe the trailer slowed them down, or, you know, if you look at it that way, and that's why you might consider putting a digital sign that the manager referenced. Or maybe there's a perceived speed issue where there's not really speeding, but on a road like that, when they're so close to the sidewalk, 30 miles an hour is pretty fast, particularly, you know, during school bus time, right? So
So what is our speed limit throughout the village?
30.
Okay.
And so we looked at those intersections and we placed a stop sign at all the tributary roads to Sherwood. And then because Marshall and Park or the real main arteries that come out of that area to get to Sherwood, we thought it appropriate to place a stop sign there, creating a three-way stop intersection. And it basically more or less bisects the road. And then at that hollow where they come down before they shoot back up to Croton Avenue at the little dip at Park, there's a stop sign there too. And then we also put, not just because they're new stop signs, but because of the topography of the road, we also put advanced stop sign ahead signage to warn people that they're coming up on a stop. And
So again, I just want to rephrase, not that I'm not happy that this is happening. The part that I'm upset is that 2 months ago, this was a big deal. I don't, you don't need to answer, believe me.
But I
So
don't,
that-
but I
that's
think
my-
it's important when
That's what
something's said.
bothers me, that 2 months ago, you and I had a conversation where
So I'm not
it
sure
became
that
a
this
big
is,
deal that, you know, again, I'm happy and I'm thrilled that this is happening, believe me.
but I think
And it
that
hasn't to
the
do anything.
conversation has to, like, we maybe want to defer this conversation. We are in a
Thank you.
legislative session. So I do want to make it clear, though. It is a big deal in terms of being thoughtful about how we do this. And upon that conversation, based on the direction of the board, we have been looking at these things. And I think we have done things that we typically would not have done, that Paul has typically not done in the past. So there was never an instance, and I want to be abundantly clear, where anybody said they would not or could not do it. We're working towards it. I think that the DPW staff, Paul, everybody involved should be commended for looking at difficult issues and trying to be innovative and change practices over time. So with that, I would like to go on with the report. So last week, Ossining Town Supervisor Feldman and I attended the Westchester County Emergency Management Stakeholders Meeting. This is really a fabulous resource that we are very, very lucky to have in Westchester. And there was tons of great information and links to any number of different websites that gave information on everything from shutting down Indian Point and the process that will be done to make sure that our communities are safe during that point, during the time that the power plant is being decommissioned, as well as accessing FEMA funding in the event of a disaster, and also disaster response and mitigation information. So great resource. I know a lot of our staff do take advantage of it, but really a phenomenal resource. It was very educational. So I encourage you all, when those opportunities come up, if you're available, they are usually during a work day, but if you can make it, otherwise we can facilitate some trainings here at some point too. That's always an option. In addition to the Hispanic Festival on Main Street, this weekend, there's also going to be the Austin Matters 5K race on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And the village will have a tent along with Green Austin at the farmer's market this Saturday to talk about car-free day and ways we're making our community more walkable and more bikeable and less reliant on gas-powered automobiles. Most of the things that we're doing that the board is pushing through and prioritizing are really set up to decrease our dependence on cars, make our village more walkable, and we're really starting to see the benefit of that. So, for those of you who may not know, Car Free Day, this is our 6th year of working with on Car Free Day with 511 New York Rideshare and Green Austin and the town of Austin. So we want to acknowledge that and also acknowledges the businesses that will be supporting Car Free Day, which you can find out more about through a link on our website as well as social media posts. And want to really give a big shout out to Green Austin for the work they do in promoting this and all the work involved in that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Moving on.
You're on. It just has to be on
Okay.
green.
Yep. Sorry about that. So thank you very much again. I wasn't on green. Corporation Counsel Kahan.
Thank you, Sue. Good evening, folks. Next week's planning board meeting will be Thursday, September 28th. So just note it's a date change. Thursday, September 28th, here at the Operations Center. This is really a shout out to the clerk's office, police and building, and all those folks who have to respond to Freedom of Information Law requests. Today, we docketed our 719th FOIL request, which means we are exactly 3 months ahead of where we ended last year. So we will probably finish with about 1,100 FOILs, which is an incredible number for the size of this village. But without the help of the folks at OPD, particularly Teresa and Sergeant McGovern, the folks in the building department, Lori McGovern, and all the folks there, and in the other departments, we can't get those things done. The clerk's office does yeoman work in getting them out, getting the responses out, getting the denials out where it has to, and things like that. But it is an immense amount of work when we get them in. As I said, today, I think we docketed 15, and they literally just keep coming in. So it's I just want to thank all those departments for the immense amount of work that they do with regard to those FOIL requests that just keep coming in. And the number is actually staggering if you think about it, that we're now where we were at the end of last year. And there's no sign of it abating in the least. Tonight's agenda has 2 resolutions calling for public hearings with regard to text amendments to the village's zoning code. Those were discussed last week at the work session. We also have a resolution for an award for certain water treatment chemicals. I have advised the clerk that she does not have to read the names of all the different chemicals tonight, but that's basically a rebid plus 1 or 2 other new ones. You recall last week there was a discussion about a donation of the flagpole and a plaque in memory of Michael Novotny III. There's a resolution tonight accepting that donation. There are some resolutions which relate to last week's discussion with Captain Donahue and Lieutenant Majorano with regard to the police department. And finally, there is a resolution approving a cabaret license for Austin River Works, which is at 30 State Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stuart.
Okay, Police Chief Sylvester.
Evening. Earlier today, a notification was sent to the mayor about a school threat, which I believe was shared with the board. Messaging was sent out by the school district and some follow-ups went out this afternoon. It appears that a similar threat was sent to a number of other school districts in this county, in the Adirondacks and Monroe County, and we believe in other states across the country. So it is deemed to not be a credible threat in this district for the time being, notwithstanding. It was good work by our SROs together with detectives, with the school administration to ensure that everybody stayed safe today. We'll have some extra patrols at our schools. We have at dismissal, at back to school night tonight at Brookside, and at the other schools as they come on. So business as usual for now, but always looking after our students. Big thing in the police department over the next couple of weeks will be training. Officer Ryan's going to be headed to an advanced vehicle and traffic school. Officers Costa and Martinez to the New York Women in Law Enforcement Conference next week. Officer Perillo to a legal updates course. We are going to be bringing back our civilian police academy, which we'll be announcing sometime soon to begin in October, a 6-week course aimed at working with high school kids. Officers Hazel, Dennis, and Detective Chavez are going to be going to a DEA cannabis enforcement course. We have officers attending hate crimes and bias incident training, as well as second half firearms qualification for the entire department. So busy time for training. Lots going on at the OPD. That's all for tonight. Thanks.
Chief, are you gonna be doing the presentation? Is it next week for the police reform for
Yes.
an update? So that'll be next Wednesday.
Yes, so-
Great, thank you. I was trying to follow the emails around. Thank you.
Moving on, organizational announcements. Announcements of shall be event related only and shall be no longer than 2 minutes in length. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on an event? Oh, they should raise their virtual hand if they are on Zoom. Okay, seeing no one. Public comment on agenda items. Visitors shall be accorded a 4-minute opportunity to address the board on any of the resolutions on the agenda. Do I have anyone that would like to do that? Please raise your virtual hand if you're on Zoom or raise your hand if you're in the audience. Okay. Seeing no one. Visitor recognition. Visitors shall be accorded a 3-minute opportunity to address the board on issues not related to the agenda, but relevant to a common good of the village. Is there anyone that wishes to do a visitor recognition? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
How many minutes?
3.
Okay. She'll give you a little warning. don't
4.
4.
Oh, no, 3, excuse me. I apologize.
Hello.
My name is Greg Young. I own Ossining Riverworks at 30 State Street. I wasn't intending to ask any questions or comment, but it was a topic about street signs. Stop signs specifically. I received, I actually requested a stop sign about 6 or 8 months ago at the intersection of State Street and Academy Place. It happens to be where there's a school, there's a children's theater, there's a fire department, there are 2 county bus lines. And kind of similar to what Mr. Kazada said, that I received the response of there has to be a traffic study. So my first question is there a way for constituents to find out where the new street signs are being placed? And the part B was that if there isn't, is there a way to request that information? Because that's something we've asked, and I know a child has been hit in recent years on State Street, so this is kind of a pertinent issue. And has already been discussed tonight. So I'd like to know if there's a way constituents can know about where street signs or stop signs are being placed. And if not, is there a means by which to request?
Okay, so it's not a Q&A, so we hear what you're saying and the board will respond to you separately. It's not a question and answer, it's listening to the public. So now that you brought it to our attention, we'll discuss and get back to you.
That's the best answer you're gonna give me?
Yeah, it's not a question and answer. It's listening to, we are literally, it's as stated, and we hand this out. We listen, we hear, and we will have the manager's office respond to your specific, and she actually did answer part of that, so she'll send you an email with the
Okay,
response.
so I look forward to an answer by email. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great, thank you.
Is there
And
anyone?
I'm gonna do this again for the 5th time. I would like
That's my fault.
out here, I know. Not,
I know.
I'm sorry to say. So that when people come and ask questions, they understand that it's not a Q&A. We have it totally delineated. It should be attached so that they know when they go up what they and explaining how this works and why it's done that way legislatively and how responses have been done. Because every time we go through this, we have people who said they're thinking it's a Q&A, which it is not.
Okay.
But we got to put this stuff out here.
Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to make a visitor recognition? Okay, seeing no one, let's start with our resolutions. Approval of minutes, September 6, 2023. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the September 6, 2023 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of minutes, September 13th. I apologize, September 13th, 2023. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of the September 13th, 2023 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of voucher detail. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated September 20th, 2023 in the amount of $779,989.53. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Call for a public hearing pursuant with the Village of Austin Code Section 270-59C amendments to the chapter 270 zoning, section 270-30 parking and loading regulations. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 PM on October 18th, 2023 at the Bergdorf-Hagen Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, to consider a local law 2023 entitled Local Law Amending Chapter 270 Zoning, Section 270-30 Parking and Loading Regulations, and be further resolved that the proposed local law amends the off-street parking requirements in the VC Village Center and the SPN Station Plaza North and the NC2 Neighborhood Center zoning districts and adds a new subdivision 12 to section 270-30A entitled Fee for in lieu of parking for new and infill construction in the VC SP-N and NC-E districts. And be further resolved that the members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location, and be further resolved that the members of the public are requiring a reasonable accommodation to participate in the public hearing due to the person's disability shall notify Corporation Counsel no later than 7 days before the public hearing at kahan@villageofaustin.org to afford the village significant time to provide reasonable accommodations, and be it further resolved that those members of the public who wish to attend, participate in the public hearing remotely, access will be available through a Zoom platform, and then be it further resolved that comments regarding the proposed laws will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at BOT@villageofaustin.org. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Comments, Stuart, so that's why I asked before about dates between the courthouse. Just to make sure that it's synchronized, that what we're saying in the resolution is the correct location.
This is correct. Mayor.
Okay,
This is a legislative meeting.
it'll get, no, I get it. It's
Yeah.
it's gonna get confusing. in the
It's gonna get a little
next
bit.
months. I also heard in the town meeting that they were confused about locations, so just want to make sure they're synchronized.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Call for a public hearing pursuant with Village Code Section 270-59C amendments to Chapter 270 zoning, Section 270-4 definitions, use group classifications, and Section 270-26 additional standards for use groups. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 on October 18th, 2023 in the Bergdorf-Hagen Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, to consider proposed local law 2023 entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 270 Zoning and Section 270-4 definitions, use group classifications, and Section 270-26 additional standards for groups. And be it further resolved that the proposed local law adds a new definition for cultivation grow facilities and additional standards for the industrial use group. And be it further resolved that the members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the aforementioned location. And be it further resolved that the members of the public requiring special accommodation to participate in the public hearing due to a person's disability shall notify Corporation Counsel no later than 7 days before the public hearing at kahan@villageofaustin.org to afford the village significant time to provide the reasonable accommodations, and be it further resolved that those members of the public who want to attend, participate the public hearing remotely, access will be available through the Zoom platform, and be it further resolved that comments regarding the proposed local law will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at bot@villageofaustining.org. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any questions, comments?
All those in favor?
Aye.
DPW bid award, water treatment plant chemicals from September 20th, 2023 to May 31st, 2025. Whereas the New York State law provides the municipality to advertise and award bids for certain materials, supplies, and services as specified therein through the use of the biannual bid process, allowing the purchase of such items at a fixed cost to the municipality. And whereas on July 19th, the Board of Trustees authorized the village clerk to advertise for the aforementioned water treatment plant chemicals. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees awards the bids for water treatment plant chemicals in accordance with the attached recommendations of the Water Department, with the recommendations that are circled, and be it further resolved that the aforementioned award for the water treatment plant will be effective September 20th, 2023 to May 31st, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Comments, questions?
All in favor?
Aye.
Dedication of a flagpole and installation of a plaque in memory of Michael Novotny III. Whereas in 2022, members of the Austin community approached village staff and elected officials about donating a flagpole and installing a plaque in memory of Michael Novotny III, who died unexpectedly in 2022. And whereas Mr. Novotny's obituary included the following: Mike worked hard at a job he thoroughly enjoyed as a local 3 union electrician. However, his real life was spending time on the fields with his boys and their teammates. Michael took great Austining pride in volunteering his time on the board for both the local baseball and football organizations, in addition to coaching Jack and Connor's Little League baseball and football teams. He loved every player and parent he encountered. And whereas the request to donate the flagpole to be located at the lower field of Veterans Park and the installation of the plaque was discussed at the recreation superintendent, the Recreation Advisory Board, and on September 13th with the Board of Trustees. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees gratefully acknowledges the donation of the flagpole and installation of the plaque at Veterans Park in memory of Michael Novotny III, and be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees thanks Aaron Spring for his assistance in bringing this proposal to the attention of village staff and elected officials. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Comments, I'm gonna, Stuart, there was conversation emails about similar to the benches. I would have expected in the resolution that it would stay to be memorialized that there's a 10-year piece to this. Because in 9.5 years, another board is gonna be sitting here. Not knowing whether it's we discussed this at length actually last week, but there was still some questions about the fact that these things are no longer into perpetuity. They can't be. So do you remember?
I do. We in the past, we've not included that in the
In the
donation
resolution? Where is it memorialized? Because when I joined the Parks and Rec, half of our time was being spent on, where are the minutes from the meeting 8 years ago? And there was a lack of minutes. Nobody knew where things were because, they're volunteers and things change. And the superintendent was on the third one or second one. So where do we memorialize? So somebody can go back and look at that.
It can be, one, it can be memorialized in communication with Mr. Spring because it is something that he has acknowledged. And 2, it's part of the policies for bench and tree donation as relates to the RAB's policies. This is a little different because it's a flagpole.
Right, because as I'd written in an email, you could have a whole bunch of benches. You can't have a whole bunch of flagpoles in a park. I really think it belongs and needs to be added. It needs to be memorialized into the minutes. It was discussed. I think there's an agreement. There are limitations on flagpoles, unlike all this other stuff. As I had mentioned last week in the in-depth conversation when I was on, in a liaison format, there was a lot of conversation about that like, how do you decide? And why should somebody get a flagpole? Because that's a big deal. Is it forever? Is it 10 years? And you don't need more than one. And this park's gonna have two, but there was a reason we had a whole conversation last week about that. I just think it needs to be very clear because I can imagine in exactly 9.5 years, this being a problem. And also a problem in needing to memorialize in writing that there is not necessarily a great will to have many flagpoles at a given park. That's sort of silly, actually, even though they're donated. So how can we make that happen?
Well, that would have to be a separate policy, Mayor. That's not really part of the resolution. If the board
Okay.
does not, the board wants to adopt a policy in terms of the number of flagpoles that can be in a park or in any location, that can be adopted.
So that's a separate piece.
That would be a separate policy that can
Okay.
easily be drafted, but that would be separate. This
So-
is just the acceptance of the donation.
Right. And do they have the money together or does this just allow them to
What-
start
what
funding?
Aaron said at the meeting was once the resolution was passed, he would be able to then essentially either do GoFundMe or something to fund the plaque and the flagpole. He was confident that they would raise the funds.
Right. And did we inform him that it's 10 years like the other pieces or
I
not?
believe that was discussed last week and.
I do
he was
too, but if you
cognizant
could
of
just follow up so that we
Okay.
make that clear.
that.
What
Thank
happens
you.
after 10 years?
Well, what happens with the benches after 10 years?
Nothing.
They're still there, but it becomes our maintenance responsibility, basically. I mean.
In
if-
the
if
first
something
10
breaks
years, it
down,
becomes
We
theirs.
would have to fix it at that point.
Yeah, for the first 10 years, that's on them.
For maintenance and stuff.
Yeah, or it falls down or whatever. It's not like
Okay.
we go and remove these things.
Okay, got it. I'm clear.
Okay,
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Finance, establishment of the 2023 Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility Solar Roof from Crest Fund Grant and General Fund Balance. Whereas the village management wishes to establish a new 2023 capital project to replace the roof, including installing a solar array at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility not to exceed $280,600 designated to be financed by Community Resiliency, Economic Stability and Technology Program, CREST grant, and $100,000 to be transfer of $180,000 from from general fund balance. Now therefore be it resolved that the capital project and capital project budgets would be established as follows, and the entire financial part of it is posted on the bulletin board outside of the clerk's office and on the webpage. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments from the board?
Is owned by the village or are we leasing?
This. I'm sorry, I've been losing were you gonna answer or I saw you moving the mic? Oh, it's we own the building. This is the police.
Paying $100,000, we own the solar system too.
Ah.
We're leasing.
I'm sorry. It's a part of a grant that we discussed, that was available to every municipality from Harkham's office. We would own this particular solar is my understanding. And the roof needs to be done, so we're gonna do it as a project together.
Correct, Mayor. So I just want to caveat a few things. This is set up we haven't applied for this funding. We have not been awarded this funding yet. So in the event that we get the funding, we likely may need to do the roof regardless, but in the event that we get the funding, this would be an addition and supplement some of the roof cost. While we worked with the company Ecogy that did the roof here, which we own, so we would work whether or not we use them to get the estimate. So that's what we needed to do for the grant application. So we could consider other options at the time we actually execute, but likely we would do similar to the projects we've done, the other solarization projects that we've done.
Which is owning or leasing. I think that's, are you gonna,
Oh, okay, so. Power generated going back into the grid or just gonna supplement what's going on in.
It probably would supplement more at Spring Street, but there probably could be some that goes into the grid too. So, but I think it might help with ultimately some of the greening of the fleet at the police station. I'm not sure because it's a considerably smaller roof, array, so I'm not sure how much would go into the grid or not. But it would depend on how we set this up
Yeah,
too.
Mike, I mean, you've worked on solar, as a career. No, I know, but I mean, my guess is as good as yours, but if it's like my house, it's mostly gonna go to the building. Yeah, I don't think much is gonna end up going to the grid. Given what's used in that building and how many hours, I mean, the police is open 24 hours a day there, so, I'm sorry?
The sun's not up.
No, but you know what I'm saying, the
But they're using
usage
they're using
is gonna be using, oh, right, you have solar in your house too.
Mhm.
So anyway, we'll see what we get. The roof has to be done this year, next year, and the prices are just going up, so it seems to make sense. And maybe we could find some other money somewhere for it, but it seems to be the right use for it. Yeah. No, I know you just asked, but I agree with you. If we own it, it's a
Should always own it.
true. Always own it is exactly the right answer.
In favor?
Aye.
Finance adjustment to 2023 digital message board capital project general fund balance. Whereas village management established, established a capital project in accordance with the project resolution approved in January 4, 2023 to establish a capital project for digital message board for the police department of $25,000 for the project budget requires an adjustment to $28,059.29 to incorporate additional functionality. The general fund project transfer of $28,059.29 represents the $25,000 transferred in January 2023 and an additional funds of $3,059.29 to be transferred from general fund balance, and now therefore be it resolved that the capital project and project budgets are established as follows, and the detail will be again on the bulletin board at the clerk's office and on the webpage. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions? Nope. Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any continuing business of the board? Not seeing anything. We have new business of the board. Corporation Council,
Yeah.
You wanna start this?
An application by Ossining Riverworks for a cabaret license. It has been vetted by finance, building, and police. There have also been discussions with Mr. Young, with village staff. And we are presenting tonight a resolution to the board to approve the cabaret license for the location at 30 State Street.
Thank you, sir. Whereas pursuant with Chapter 11 and Chapter 171 of the Code of the Village of Austining, the authorized representative of the business Austining Riverworks LLC, 30 State Street, Austining, New York, represented an application to the village clerk as licensing officers for a cabaret license. Be it resolved that pursuant with the code, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the cabaret license for 2023 for Austining Riverworks LLC as follows. Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. till midnight, Saturday and Sunday, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. midnight. Type of entertainment, no music, only educational, cultural based programming. Do I have a motion?
It's a cabaret license for it. It's,
Group gathering.
Oh, it's the group gathering aspect of it?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's 2 a.m. is one of the,
No, 12.
it's 12.
5 p.m. Let me repeat
Yeah, I
it,
got
Monday
it.
through
Sorry,
Friday,
I'm
5.
reading it, I'm reading
Okay,
it. I could read it.
okay.
I thought I circled everything, but let me just visit it again. The cabaret no more than 1 day per calendar, blah, blah, April 1, June, and that in no event shall the hours of the hours of operation extend past 2 a.m.
Mayor, that's in the event that the operator wants extended time.
Got it. So that's in the paragraph with the extension.
That's
Got
right.
it, got it, got it. Okay, great, fabulous.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any questions, comments? We'd ask you to, if you wanted to say anything, but I'm seeing the vote going like in a positive way. There's There's no reason to, so. It feels like a. No, we're allowed to actually ask questions. That's the legislative sessions, that's how they work. But it's going to get a vote, so when it's like that, there doesn't seem to be any need for clarification. So, getting the vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. There you go.
Okay,
Okay, we have one more new business item. So CREST grants, which are distributed through, usually they're going through the Dormitory Authority. But they're administered through our local representatives in a way to bring funding back to the community. So we talked about the CREST grant that is pending with Senator Harkam for the solar array at the police station. Assemblywoman Levenberg has issued a request or an opportunity to apply for CREST funding to her municipalities in her district. And we have two opportunities. One is for a $250,000 grant and one is for a $125,000 grant. I'll be meeting with Assemblywoman Levenberg tomorrow to get more input. These grants have a very quick turnaround time. They're not very labor intensive in terms of putting them together, but I did want to let the board know, be aware of this opportunity. We had thought that it would be in our interest to ask for $250,000 for a solar array at the community center, because it's something that we had talked about in the global context of our community center improvements. And if we were to get this money, it would allow us a little bit more opportunity to use that, in turn, use that money for other things that we're planning, and hopefully get as many things on our wish list as we can at the community center as we hopefully we'll start the design process for that soon. So I spoke to Assemblywoman Levenberg initially. She said also apply for $125,000. We could do it also for the community center roof. We wouldn't get both. We'd likely get one or the other, but that would at least give us some money towards that. Or we could possibly do it for another project. And in the past, we had requested, but we're not funded for playground equipment at Sparta Park. So upon speaking with her tomorrow, I will try to get some more information. We will apply for both funding streams, but I want to get a sense of what would most likely be prioritized. We will be coming back then with that application's due next Friday, but we'll be coming back with another resolution similar based on whatever we asked for.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 8:31. And we will see everybody again next Wednesday. For those of you that are celebrating the holidays, the Jewish holidays, as I will, and I guess Stuart Kahan as well, along with many others in the community, Jamie. Happy holiday, and we will see everybody next Wednesday. Have a good evening.
At the courthouse.
Oh, I will remind, at our lovely courthouse, which we haven't been to. I'm actually looking forward to that. We will see everybody at the courthouse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,